Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm sure there'll be a few more joining us, but want to respect everyone's time. So I'm Bill Schaefer, Director and Planning Manager with the Greater Madison MPO staff. Appreciate you joining us this evening for this informational meeting on Connect Greater Madison, the update to our regional plan. Do want to apologize, my camera's not working, so can't put that on, but if that's the only thing that only technical difficulty we have, we'll be okay. So just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is muted. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, including what community you're from or what group you're with. Please put your questions and comments into the Q&A section as we go along. If there's a quick clarification on a slide, we'll try to answer that during the presentation, but otherwise we will read and answer or respond to the questions and comments after the presentation, which will last about 30 minutes. The presentation slides and a recording of the webinar will be posted on both the MPO website and our dedicated Regional Transportation Plan website by the end of the week. So we wanted to just start with a quick poll to find out who's with us tonight. So we'll give you a minute or so to respond to that. Okay, looks like mostly everyone's had a chance to fill it out. We've got a very nice diversity of folks in terms of just general interested community members, elected officials, local staff, other federal, state, public agency staff. So that's great, and some nonprofit staff as well. So we'll go ahead and close that poll. And we'll move on. So just wanted to give you everyone a brief background on the Greater Madison MPO for those of you who may not be familiar with us. As the designated metropolitan planning organization, we lead the collaborative regional transportation planning process with the adopted mission and vision that you see here. The map shows the official planning boundary for the MPO, but we obviously must account for travel in and out of the metro area as well as within the area. The MPO is governed by a 14-member policy board with representation as shown here. The MPO coordinates with federal and state agencies and county and local governments to ensure development of a coordinated, connected regional transportation system that is consistent with the shared regional goals and supporting policies, recommendations, and strategies outlined in our regional transportation plan. This graphic highlights the MPO's primary responsibilities. In addition to providing a forum for regional transportation decision-making and preparing the regional transportation plan, these include leading or supporting other special plans and studies and approving federal funding for projects through the adoption of the Transportation Improvement Program. Finally, the MPO manages a program to promote sustainable transportation options. The MPO is strictly a planning and funding agency and does not design and construct projects or operate transit services. So with that background on the MPO, wanted to move on, just give a brief overview of what is a regional transportation plan for those of you who may not be familiar with such plans. So the regional plan is a framework plan that covers all modes of transportation. It sets guiding policy and identifies future projects, studies, and strategies to be implemented. Project recommendations are refined through corridor or mode, or in some cases, topic-specific plans and design studies. This plan will build upon recent and ongoing MPO, WSDOT, and local plans and studies such as Metro's Bus Rapid Transit Project and Transit Network Design Study. Federal rules require the plan to be financially constrained, so while all desired projects may be identified, only those projects with reasonably likely future funding can be included in the official plan. It can't be simply a wish list of projects. As noted, the plan will be designed to support the regional development framework and preferred growth scenario built from those local plans, and you'll hear more about that. Connect Greater Madison is being coordinated with the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission's preparation of the regional development framework. The current integrated regional planning effort really started back in 2016 with the Regional Values and Priorities Survey. That provided a foundation for the Greater Madison Vision growth scenario planning process and the current regional transportation plan by identifying important shared values, regional challenges, and growth and transportation strategies that enjoyed widespread support. The Greater Madison Vision process formed the basis for the goals and the preferred growth strategy that are the foundation of CARPC's draft regional development framework. The draft growth scenario is based on local comprehensive plans, regional framework goals, and other regional plans. The Connect Greater Madison plan will be based on the regional growth scenario and informed by other state and local transportation planning efforts. The Regional Development Framework and Connect Greater Madison are integrated in two key ways. First, through shared and complementary goals, policies, and vision for the region. These shared goals and policies address the following common themes: accessibility, livability, economic prosperity, equity, sustainability, resilience, efficiency, and preservation. The second way is through the shared forecast and preferred growth scenario. The growth scenario was guided by the agency's shared and complementary goals and will serve as the basis for the Connect Greater Madison plan. And again, you'll hear more about that. This graphic shows the general plan development steps, public engagement opportunities, and schedule. We are currently in phase 1 of the plan process, highlighted with the bold outline. This summer and fall, we will be developing and evaluating projects and strategies and anticipate completing the draft plan early next year with adoption next spring. Current public input activities include an online survey and some targeted focus groups. There will be an opportunity to comment on interactive maps in the future, along with additional meetings. So what's new since the current plan was adopted not that long ago in 2017? The short answer is quite a lot. A number of communities, including the City of Madison, have completed updates to their comprehensive plans. We have new, much higher growth projections and a new draft countywide growth scenario. The MPO has a new improved travel forecast model built using data from a comprehensive household travel survey, the first one done since 2001. New major regional projects in the works include Bus Rapid Transit in the Beltline Flex Lanes. Metro is also in the process of redesigning the bus network to better serve residents and complement the BRT service plan. And of course, there's the pandemic, which may have lasting impacts on travel, introducing a new travel mode, virtual transportation. The following are our current 7 plan goals. The first goal is to create connected, livable neighborhoods and communities linked to jobs, services, schools, shops, and parks through a multimodal transportation system. Next, improve public health, safety, and security through transportation system changes that reduce crash-related injuries, support active transportation, and enhance air quality. Support personal prosperity and enhance the regional economy by providing affordable transportation options and enabling the efficient exchange of goods and services. Improve equity for users of the transportation system by providing an equitable level of transportation facilities and services for all. Reduce the environmental impact of the transportation system by designing and managing it in a way to protect the natural environment and preserve historic and cultural resources. Advance system-wide efficiency, reliability, and integration across modes by minimizing excessive and unexpected delays, providing seamless transfers between modes of transportation, and through supportive land use development. And then finally, establish financial viability of the transportation system by maintaining it in a state of good repair, investing in cost-efficient projects, and ensuring adequate funding to meet needs. We will be revisiting these and making any needed refinements as part of our plan update to ensure the goals fully and properly address desired outcomes for the future transportation in the region. For example, we might revise the environmental goal to specifically reference climate change. The MPO has adopted performance measures and produces an annual report to track progress in achieving these 7 goals. The measures include federal measures for which short-term targets are set as required by federal law. In the future, the MPO may set targets for other measures as well. I am now going to turn it over to Ben Lyman to review information on the regional growth scenario. The transportation plan will be designed to serve and support key transportation trends and some critical issues that need to be considered and addressed in the plan.
Thank you, Bill. Good night, everyone. So to start off, how have we grown? Looking at population growth, the population in Dane County has grown 48% between 1990 and 2020, or around 1.6% per year. It's anticipated that we'll add almost 200,000 persons to the county between 2020 and 2050, reaching almost 750,000 people in total in that time. This map shows areas with expected growth in households and the number of anticipated new households for the larger communities in the metro area. The largest percentage increase is expected in the larger suburban cities and villages, consistent with past trends. Although you'll see that the city of Madison still has the lion's share of overall numbers. This is a screenshot of the future growth scenario developed for the Regional Development Framework Plan, upon which the transportation plan will be based. The growth scenario assumes that 42% of new households and 24% of jobs will be located in already developed areas. Within the city of Madison, 57% of new households will be in these infill and redevelopment areas. In addition to prioritizing growth in already developed areas, another strategy of the Regional Development Framework is to focus growth in walkable mixed-use centers and corridors connecting them, which can be efficiently served by transit where that's feasible. This growth scenario assumes, again, 42% of new households and 38% of jobs in the county will be located in the existing and planned centers and corridors shown on this map. And here we have employment growth. Dane County is anticipated to add close to 100,000 new jobs by 2050. This map shows areas of anticipated job growth and the number of new jobs for the larger communities in the metro area. Where are people commuting? Within the county, over 60% of jobs in the county are located in the city of Madison, resulting in an influx of commuters from other municipalities in the county. Around a third to half of the workers in communities across the county work in Madison, with many more commuting to adjacent suburbs with large employment bases such as Middleton, Verona, Fitchburg, and Sun Prairie. The county is also a net importer of workers. There are an estimated 43,000 workers commuting into the county, a number that's been growing rapidly and is expected to continue to increase. How are people using the transportation system? Well, as you see from the multiple slide graphics here, an estimated 71% of resident county workers drive alone to work. That percentage is 10% less, 61%, for the city of Madison workers due to higher percentages of transit, bicycle, and walk trips. Work trip mode shares haven't changed much over the last 20 years. When looking at all weekday trips, transit mode share is smaller and multi-occupant vehicle trips are much higher due to 2 or more persons from the same household making those trips. The pie chart on the left shows mode share for trips by Central Madison area residents versus all county residents on the right. The percentage of their trips by transit, bicycling, and walking is much higher, particularly for walk trips. Though not shown, their trips are also significantly shorter on average. The graph on the left shows the trend in daily vehicle miles of travel, or VMT. There was a dip in VMT during the recession in 2008 and 9, but it has generally been increasing between 1% and 2% per year. There are quite a few drivers of change that we need to be considering, as Bill mentioned. While no one knows exactly how these emerging technologies and trends will play out and impact our travel, these are some of the key drivers of change we need to consider and begin planning for. Connected, driverless, electric, and autonomous vehicles, other transportation infrastructure and communications technologies, shared mobility, including ride-hailing, car-sharing services, and bike and scooter sharing, an increase in online shopping, and a potential long-term increase in teleworking in the aftermath of the pandemic. There are also a couple really critical issues that we need to be considering as we develop this plan. One of the most critical issues we need to consider and directly and transparently address in our transportation planning is ensuring a more equitable system that overcomes historical racial disparities supported by past public and private policies and investments. This map shows our designated environmental justice, or EJ, areas, which have high and above average concentrations of minority and low income persons. Many of these EJ areas correspond to the historic HOLC red line maps, as well as to gaps in the current sidewalk and all ages and abilities bicycle facility networks. A second critical issue that we must consider is the ever-increasing threat posed by climate change. Addressing it from a transportation standpoint includes 2 things. 1, reducing transportation's impact on climate change, and 2, preparing and adapting the transportation system to withstand changing weather conditions, including more extreme weather events such as heat and rain. We're going to conduct another poll for just a moment here to see what you think are the most important transportation issues facing the region. From this list of 10 that I believe Zia is about to pop up here, please select up to 5 that you think are the most important transportation issues for us to be considering. Probably a good thing. It seems like everyone is thinking about this a little bit more than what agencies or groups you're representing. Almost there. So we've got all but 2 people. There we go, 100%. All right, so it looks like improving equity in transportation had 76% view supporting that, thinking it's really important. Improving public transportation also at 76%. Some other big ones, reducing impacts of climate change. Impacts on the climate change, I think that's a typo. We want to be reducing impacts of climate change. And improving walkability and bikeability look like the big ones. Thank you all for your time there. I'm now going to turn it over to Colleen Hosley, and she's going to review some information on the current transportation system.
All right, thank you, Ben. In the map here in the upper right is the regional roadway system showing relative average daily traffic volumes. The regional roadway system includes over 1,800 centerline miles divided relatively equally in terms of jurisdiction between the state, county, and local governments. Traffic congestion is not widespread, but is certainly an issue on some roadways and in certain locations, particularly on radial arterials leading to the downtown campus area and in the Beltline and County Highway MK corridors due to our geography, which funnels traffic onto a smaller number of corridors. This map shows a 2019 weekday AM 2-hour peak period traffic congestion conditions on arterial roadways as measured by peak period travel speeds compared to speeds the other times of the day. The map on the right shows bridge and pavement conditions on the regional roadway system. According to data from 2019 and 2020, about 63% of the regional roadway system has pavement rated in good to excellent condition, compared to 9% in poor or very poor condition. Overall, pavement conditions have not changed much since 2013. 49% of bridges in the metro area are in good condition, with 8% in poor condition. However, based on bridge deck area, only 2% are in poor condition. Breaking down pavement condition further by the jurisdiction of the regional roadways, one can see that the condition of state roadways is much better than that for county and municipal roadways. 84% of state roadways are in good to excellent condition, compared to 58 to 59% of county and municipal roadways. The safety of all roadway users is a top priority. Traffic fatalities have generally decreased over the years. However, 2020 was one of the deadliest years on Dane County roads in recent history, despite a significant drop in vehicle traffic and overall crashes as a result of the pandemic. Serious injuries as a result of a traffic crash have continued to rise in recent years. Vulnerable roadway users, including bicyclists and pedestrians, continue to make up a disproportionate share of roadway fatalities and serious injuries. The City of Madison has recently launched an initiative to achieve 0 deaths and serious injuries on roadways, and surrounding communities are starting to place a greater emphasis on improving roadway safety for all users. This map shows the current weekday, all day and peak period only bus routes and service areas. All day routes are in red and peak only are in blue, with the peak only service areas in the lighter tan color. Stoughton and Sun Prairie also have shared ride taxi systems. Sun Prairie is considering moving to a local bus route system to replace the taxis. As previously mentioned, a Metro bus network redesign study is currently underway. Implementation of the recommendations that come out of that study is anticipated in late summer 2022. Metro Transit ridership peaked in 2014 and declined for 3 years before rebounding somewhat in 2018 to 2019 prior to the pandemic. The map shows the percent of jobs that can be reached by transit within 45 minutes during the weekday AM peak period. That percentage drops off significantly outside the central area due to the lack of fast, frequent service extending beyond the current bus transfer routes. That will change with the planned bus rapid transit or BRT system, which was recently recommended by the Federal Transit Administration for federal funding. While the initial roadway improvements and stations will be in the east-west corridor, the service plan shown in the map here calls for 2 additional routes using BRT buses, a north-south route and a route between Middleton and downtown, providing even more frequent service in the campus East Isthmus area where routes overlap. The new BRT system is a truly transformational project for the Madison area. The schedule calls for BRT to be in service by 2024. Intercity bus service connects Madison with Milwaukee, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Janesville, Beloit, Rockford, and many other communities in between. The city of Madison is planning a new mixed-use development with a reconstructed Lake Street parking ramp that will include an intercity bus terminal. This map shows urban regional roadways, excluding freeways and expressways, that have sidewalks on both sides, as shown by the green lines. On just one side is shown by the yellow line, or no sidewalk at all, which is shown as the red lines. 25% of the urban regional roadway network lacks sidewalks. This map shows the relative amounts of pedestrian activity by area based on streetlight data collected anonymously from people's cell phones. It shows the high number of trips in the central Madison area, downtowns of suburban communities, and Madison College and other school locations. The data also shows high activity in some areas, such as the malls and other large retail shopping areas and some industrial areas, which is actually occurring inside the buildings, something that must be taken into account when exploring this type of data. This map shows the current designated regional bicycle network categorized by the level of traffic stress, with low stress routes in light or dark green. The focus of efforts now is on building out and connecting the low stress network while removing high stress segments on arterials where a low stress facility isn't possible. In 2019, 52% of the regional network was categorized as low stress, while 27% was categorized as high stress. The percentage of the network that is low stress has been slowly but steadily increasing. This map shows the regional truck routes categorized by truck volumes, which are heavily concentrated on the interstates, the Beltline, and other US highways. Around 30% of the daily traffic on Interstate 3990 is trucks. An estimated $25 billion worth of freight was shipped in the county in 2019, with 90% of that moving by truck. And now I'm going to turn it over to Zia Brukaya to provide some information and background on current public engagement activities.
Great, thanks, Colleen. Okay, so we have a variety of public engagement opportunities that are available as part of the Regional Transportation Plan process. And all of these are listed and accessible through the Connect Greater Madison website. You can see the website there in the bottom right. So I suggest that everyone check this out. We have the public survey available in both English and Spanish. We have a list of upcoming meetings. We'll be posting the recordings of past meetings, the results of meetings like this, and the focus groups that we'll get into a little bit later. There are results posted there. And then we also have opportunities to submit a comment and to sign up for project updates. And what's shown here is an interactive map dashboard. So if you go to the resources and information section, you'll find some really fantastic maps and information that you can do some deep dives into. So for the public engagement for this process, we took a little bit of a new approach with the planning process by partnering with some local community organizations to host and facilitate focus groups with communities that are traditionally marginalized or underrepresented in processes like this, so that we could gather feedback that we knew we would be unlikely to get through the traditional online survey or evening public meetings like this. So far we have partnered with the Bayview Foundation to talk with residents of their affordable housing development. We've partnered with the Latino Academy of Workforce Development. They actually integrated this into part of their Leadership Academy educational program. So we did a whole section on transportation and had 2 focus groups as part of that, and then worked with the City of Sun Prairie Neighborhood Navigators program to talk with some of the contacts of that program. And then later this summer, we'll also be speaking with members of the Badger Rock Neighborhood Center in South Madison. And these were all excellent conversations. You can see the summary is posted online, along with some of these little tidbits, quotes and things like that. So we heard a lot of feedback about the high cost of transportation, both related to car ownership, and then in some cases, the reliance on public transit and the expenses that causes for people. We heard a lot about connectivity and efficiency issues associated with public transit. And then overall, the negative impacts that transportation challenges are having on people's independence, their family dynamics, if they need to be relying on family for rides to get places, and their ability to really connect with and engage with the community as a whole. These were all themes that we heard very frequently. We heard a little bit about bicycling, and in the comments about bicycling, there was recognition that it's viewed as a really healthy and affordable way to get around. And there's a lot of interest in doing it more, but also a lot of discomfort with riding on roads, people saying they don't feel confident, they wish there were more safe side paths that they could use. And so there's not a lot of bicycling occurring within these groups as a result of that. We can go to the next slide, Bill. So for the public survey, the regional survey it's available now. It opened June 7th, and it'll be available through Friday, July 9th. It's available in both English and Spanish. And this is a really great tool for us to gather broad public feedback on some of the key transportation topics. We did this short poll with you guys here during the meeting. That was kind of an edited version of one of the questions that's in the survey. It'll help us understand what the top concerns and priorities and opportunities are of everyone who responds. And so we really encourage you to fill this out, and then please promote it widely with your networks. If you have networks that would be interested in responding to this, that would be fantastic. We are regularly posting on Facebook, so it's really easy to share those posts. And we also have the link available on the RTP website that you saw before. And so then here's the schedule slide that you saw earlier. Later this summer, we will be posting draft introductory chapters and the results of the online public survey. In the fall, we will have a second public meeting and we'll recap what we heard during this phase, again, from the focus groups, the survey, and other comments and questions that we received. And then we'll present on the evaluation of projects and strategies and analysis of the impacts of different scenarios related to things like driverless cars or the potential increase in teleworking. We will also post interactive maps on the plan website that will be available for comment. So that's it for the presentation. On behalf of all of us at the MPO, we thank you very much for taking the time to join us this evening and help us kick off the Connect Greater Madison planning process. We hope that you will stay involved, continue to provide your input, share this information with your networks. And then please feel free to reach out to any of us at any time, with questions or comments, and definitely take a look at the RTP website. There's a lot of great information on there. So I will turn it over to Neil, who is our intern for the summer and our Q&A moderator. And we'll see if anything has come in on the Q&A, so he'll walk us through any of those questions and comments. And feel free to add additional questions as we go. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Zia. It looks like there's no comments that have come into the Q&A, but folks, feel free to put any questions or comments you might have into the Q&A and we can get to them. We did get a question during the webinar from Jeff Held. Tonight's presentation will be available on our YouTube channel as well as our new website. And I'm going to drop some links in the chat that you can all just go directly to our website and wait a few minutes as questions start to come in.
People can raise their hands too, right? We could call on them. They could ask a question verbally. Or no, I can't remember.
Yes, I believe they can raise their hand, and then we should be able to allow permission for them to speak.
Yep, that's true. So let's see here. We have Bob Schaefer. Okay, Bob, I'm going to let you talk.
Hey, thank you. A couple of things. First of all, you guys did a really good presentation on this. Keep up the good work. However, some of your data I think is flawed. That when you put in the ridership values, that one of the things that it looks like ridership is increasing, but that the thing that Madison has not done is taken into consideration the population increase, not only of Madison, but of the surrounding communities. So when you look at the population increase, that the actual ridership is severely decreasing compared to the population. I did a study on that, and I have some numbers here that if in 2019 we would taken into consideration the population growth, the ridership that we had was 12,856,541, using a comparable amount of 1979, which was looked at as a banner year. That ridership ought to have been $21,137,952. And again, that throughout the other things that they've been increasing. The other thing is that one of the modes of transportation that is surfacing is called PRT, private rapid transit. And that the news channel had, I think it was 21, had a documentary or display of the flying vehicles, automated flying vehicles that would be able to be used. And a while back, I submitted a mode called Transit X, which would have provided a micro rail with pods that would operate above street level, and that they would be much cheaper to operate, much more sustainable in terms of the efficiency and achieving zero, and also got things off of the street level and made it more easy for pedestrians and that. And it would be operating 24/7, and that. So I think that other technologies like this need to be included in your investigation, rather than sticking with what I refer to as 16th century transportation enhanced, rather than horses and buggies. We're still using a big vehicle that often has only a few people in it. And so that's the comment that I would have to make, and I can get more information to you if you're interested.
Thanks, Bob.
I'll start by responding about the transit ridership. Ridership actually, had peaked in 14 and then was declining before starting to rebound before the pandemic. But clearly we'd like to do better in terms of the growth in ridership, and the BRT system will go a long way in helping that, along with that redesign study that we mentioned. And so if you're interested in transit in particular, we would definitely encourage you to engage in that process. There'll be some information coming out and some opportunities to respond to what's been put together so far in terms of potential alternative kind of scenarios for restructuring the system. But one of them is moving a little bit more to I guess, an emphasis on ridership versus coverage, trying to cover as much of the metro area as possible, or at least the Madison area. So again, we think these things are gonna help greatly. We really do think that the BRT is, as we mentioned, going to be a very transformational project, and it's just having that fast, frequent, all-day service extending out into the more of the peripheral of the Madison area is gonna be very beneficial. Regarding personal rapid transit and Transit X, we've had conversations about that, and not sold on either of those, the viability of either of those modes, but something we can look and see what the new information is on that, and if it's been successful anywhere. But so we can have that conversation more offline.
We also got a question in the Q&A. What and where are the greatest, pardon me, never fails to rip out the microphone when you move your arm. What and where are the greatest transit equity needs that have been identified, and is access to parks and recreation facilities being looked at? The second part is, I guess, the easy thing. Parks and recreation facilities are important destinations, just our grocery stores and schools and employment centers. So that definitely factors into the gamut of types of places that people want to be going. Beyond that, I don't know that we're, especially in the transit network redesign, which is really getting more into the very locational, which street does a bus run on, what neighborhoods do they go through. I don't know that we're looking at parks and recreation exclusively, but kind of looking at them with a lot of other important destination types. In terms of the greatest transit equity needs, the metro service in its existing form is very coverage oriented. There's a bus that goes near most of the people who live in the urbanized area, and near somewhere that can be reasonably served by transit. However, that bus may not come at a convenient time. It may not come at a reasonable time, especially if you're working second shift, third shift. That's something we heard a lot from our focus group participants with the Latino Academy, was that the bus schedule doesn't work for the participants. They're working off hours. They're not traditional 8 or 9 to 5 workers headed to downtown Madison. And so the temporal structure of the system does not work very well from an equity standpoint. Secondly, because the system is really designed to get people to and from the sort of city center, the UW campus and the Madison downtown, with some peripheral service, it can be very, very awkward and time consuming to move around the periphery of the service area, where it might take you 10-20 minutes in a car. It could take you an hour and a half or 2 hours with 3 transfers to do it on a bus. And so it isn't that there are areas that don't have service, and that's an equity problem, because most everywhere does have some service. It's a question of, does that service serve the people who live there? So that's really a big question, and making sure that we design the network so that it's actually taking into account the needs of the people in the areas that it's serving at the times that they need it, rather than just a blanket one-size-fits-all approach. And for that, the alternatives that are being developed in that study, which are going to be integrated into our regional transportation plan as well, are really, we're sort of taking it for granted that there needs to be more service on weekends. There needs to be more consistent service 7 days a week, so that you're not looking for a completely different route number on Saturday and a different one on Sunday that have different alignments and different schedules than what they have Monday through Friday. It's very customer unfriendly to do that with your network. And so we're looking at making things much more consistent 7 days a week, from the beginning of the service day to the end, and extending that service day where people really need it as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Don. And although I could give a brief answer to anonymous attendees' question about light rail in the Madison area, I feel like, Bill, you have been here for more of this discussion. You'd probably be the person to answer.
Yeah, so various forms of rail transit have been studied were studied for quite a few years, dating back to even the 1980s. Specifically, light rail was looked at in the 1990s, and then after that, more recently, more like commuter rail, kind of heavy, heavy rail, like the Metra system in Chicago. Light rail would be wonderful, but we've decided to pursue BRT, which offers many of the advantages of light rail at a very small fraction of the cost. And that was something that MPO led. We led the feasibility study in 2013 that kind of shifted attention away from the rail options and to look at BRT as potential solution for us for what's called fixed guideway transit, and in particular with the BRT system now, with much of the east-west corridor being designed now with center running BRT, it really does mimic light rail in many ways. The vehicles will be electric, quiet and electric as well. And so it offers really all of the advantages of light rail at a fraction of the cost, and something at a cost that we can fund a system. So it's not to say sometime in the long-term future the BRT could be replaced with light rail, but it's just out of our price range, given particularly too, given not only our options for funding transit, but also the population and employment density that we have in Madison. So that's the answer to that one.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Bill. There was another question that came in. With the current plan for BRT median or center loading riders, how will local bus riders transfer to BRT buses? And Bill, I think you'd probably be a good candidate to answer this question as well.
Yes, Ben or I, but yeah, I can take there will not be regular buses running in the BRT corridors. And in terms of transferring, it would be the same that you'd normally do, but instead of walking perhaps to the other side of the street to catch a bus, depending on the direction that you're going, you would walk across half the street into the median and catch the BRT there. And one of the things that is going to be open up a lot of opportunities with the BRT system is currently transfers pretty much all take place at the transfer points, with time transfers, with buses from multiple routes meeting either on the half hour. And the reason for that is because there just isn't high enough frequency of service to have transfers at other locations. The square would be the other one, which kind of operates as a de facto transfer point. But with BRT buses operating and potentially other routes as well, operating every 15 minutes, there'll be more opportunities for those those transfers to occur, because you won't have to wait 30 minutes to transfer to the bus. And so it really does open up a lot more opportunities, because that is part of the reason for the long travel times for trips that aren't destined to downtown campus area, or trips that are originating from outside the transfer points. Is it just there's a lot of indirection that occurs with buses routing to the transfer point and then to so for people. So that will help greatly in terms of reducing travel times.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill. And then we have one more question concerning polling about bicycle accessibility. And I think either Ben or Billy would be great candidates to answer this question. The question that came in was, whom was polled about bicycle accessibility? Do you think their thoughts on not riding on the road applied to more than just that group?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. Although I think Zia is going to jump in. She and Colleen were actually at the meeting where that was brought up more explicitly, I think. But it is a very general thing that we hear about bicycling, that there are the fearless riders who are out there and don't mind it they're in traffic. They're really hardcore folks. And then there's a group that says, okay, we'll ride on the bike lane on the side of the road, but 45-mile-an-hour traffic, that kind of freaks me out next to it. And then there are the people who are much more cautious and don't want to be in the road unless it's their residential local street. Even that might worry them. Small children, people who have other vision or other disabilities, or maybe using adaptive vehicles that don't necessarily fit on the sidewalk, but they're not comfortable in the road, adaptive bikes, trikes, things like that. So what we're really moving towards is planning for an all ages and abilities network, and recognizing that a family with little kids on the little scooters are not going to be comfortable in the bike lane on the side of East Washington. It's just not going to happen. Maybe some families would be comfortable there, but the vast majority of parents are not going to want their little kids out there. So we're looking at trying to facilitate the development of a larger interregional network that really does serve all ages and all abilities. There are going to be the hardcore people who are happy to ride out there in traffic, good on them. But ultimately, I don't think that the question about who we had polled and who came up with that, that was, I think, folks from Bayview, the Latino Academy, and the Sun Prairie Neighborhood Navigators focus groups all mentioned that to some degree. And no, I don't think they're alone. I think that's very widespread, and that a lot of bicycle advocates forget that there are a lot of folks out there who are simply never going to be comfortable riding on the road.
All right, perfect. Thank you for that, Ben. It looks like there are no more questions in the Q&A. So I'm going to hand it back over to Bill to close us out here for the night.
Okay, thanks, Neil. So want to thank everyone for tuning in for this kind of introductory information about our regional plan update. Again, Zia mentioned, urge all of you to take the survey and share with others, your network or friends. We'd like to get as many responses as possible to that, and we will have many more opportunities going forward for input. Check out our website. As Zia mentioned, we have a lot of good information and maps on the site, including a number of interactive maps that really allow you to zoom in to your neighborhood, or your community, and so check out that information, and there'll be a lot more to come. But again, appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and have a good evening.